This is an open letter to anyone who sells fentanyl, specifically the fentanyl dealer that sold my daughter's boyfriend the fentanyl that killed him at the beginning of September. Rest in peace, Kevin. To whom it should concern, let me just start off by saying you have never met me and I've never met you. We do, however, have a friend in common. On the 1st of September, my daughter's boyfriend met up with you on OfferUp, and you sold him some Fetty tickets. You might remember him. Young guy, late 20s, pretty good looking, and he had an amazing glass collection of which he sent you some pictures in order to prove what a big fan he was, so you would sell to him. You might remember him, or you might not. After all, he was, as far as I know, you guys weren't that close. But if you do remember him, I'm sure the last image you have in your mind of him is a much nicer one than the one that my daughter has. You see, the tickets you sold Kevin are the tickets that killed him. The last image my daughter has of the boy she was totally in love with are the ones of him blue on the floor and choking on his own vomit while she tried her best to save his young life. She gets to remember the way his hand tightened on hers and the way tears leaked out the corners of his eyes when she quietly spoke to him and said his name when he first arrived at the hospital. And I'm sure she'll never forget, less than a day later, the image of his waxy, vacant face all hooked up to tubes running to machines that made his body breathe and preserve the organs that he planned to donate, even though the Kevin that we all loved was long, long gone. I understand better than most people how real this struggle is and how tempting fast cash can be. But that being said, let me also tell you this. There's nothing in the world that you will ever buy with that blood money that can make up for the fact that every time you sell a bag of that shit, you're selling another person his death, and a little piece of whatever decency or soul you have left inside of you goes along with it. You are literally leaving behind you in your wake a trail of death and horror and ruined lives and lost hopes and heartbreak and living relatives left blaming themselves and crying themselves to sleep so they can wake up crying and grieving an unutterable loss. And it's all real as fuck. It's not a movie. And for what? Why? If you're anything like most of the people I've ever known who sell drugs, you probably aren't even really doing anything with your profits that even remotely worth the kind of hell that you're causing to people. And when I say people, I'm not just talking about the poor sick junkies who consciously make the decision to buy their own deaths from you. I'm also talking about the people who didn't make any decision to fuck with you or your drugs at all. I'm talking about the people who love the addicts that you're passively killing. I'm talking about people like my daughter who will never, literally never, be the same girl that she was before this happened. I'm talking about the mother and the father left with no son. My daughter was engaged to that boy and she changed her Facebook status to widow, which is bad enough, but I feel a deep kind of sympathy, though, for Kevin's parents who have nothing to change their status to. I guess being a parent and losing your child like that is something so fucking terrible that there just isn't even a name for it. I don't delude myself into thinking that this will change you or your lifestyle or the despicable way that you choose to make your living, but I didn't feel like it was fair for us to have to live with the fucked up hell that your drugs have caused us without letting you know for sure that your actions are having reactions and that you personally are the cause for this effect. Kevin was a real life person with thoughts and feelings, not just a statistic. He was someone who was planning to go back to school to be a nurse so he could save people's lives. He was in love with my daughter and he planned to marry her and have a family someday. He was in treatment and staying sober, and he made one bad choice in one moment of weakness and lost literally everything. There is nothing respectable whatsoever about the kind of person who preys upon people who are at their weakest moments in order to finance their own life. It's the most scumbag thing to do ever, and you can't do it without trying. So, congratulations, I guess. Please know, as you're spending the bloody ass money you make, that you are absolutely the worst kind of person. I hope you're having a good time now, because when all of your fucked up karma finally catches up to you, there'll be nowhere for you to run to avoid it. I'll pray for you. I would advise you to do the same.